Being a landlord in Canada has been a real roller coaster, and let me tell you, it's a tale I wouldn't want to relive. So, my tenant started missing rent from December last year, and here we are in July, not a dime in sight. Come March, I took him to court, slapped him with overdue rent charges, and casually dropped the bomb that I might reclaim the place for myself. Fast forward to today, my other tenant from a different property just moved out. I went over, did a bit of cleaning, and decided to swing by the troublesome one. Holy, the door wasn't even locked, and the whole place smelled like a Bob Marley concert. Apparently, he can afford pot, vacations, and claims to have invested in some fancy condo, but rent? Nope. Not happening. It got so bad that I eventually sold that property. In our last video, we touched on how the Canadian government blames skyrocketing housing prices on international students and workers. I promised we'd dive deeper into the rental issue, and here we are, introducing over 1 million international students and 600,000 international workers has undeniably strained Canada's rental market, especially in hotspots like Toronto and Vancouver. But is the absurd rent really all their fault? Are there deeper issues at play? You betcha. It's a combination of the Residential Tenancy Act playing favorites, the Landlord Tenant Board dragging its feet. Let's start with a sneak peek into how the Residential Tenancy Act unfairly tips the scales against landlords. The result? Reluctant landlords, limited supply, high demand, and you guessed it, sky-high rents. Landlords face numerous unforeseen risks. As a result of risk and reward, only high rents can offset those high risks. Additionally, I'd like to introduce you to the LTB, the Landlord Tenant Board. Let's talk about its bureaucracy and how it indirectly contributes to the soaring rental prices in Toronto. Let's dive into some key sections. First, can tenants have pets? Despite no pets in many rental ads, Section 14 of the Act states that any clause prohibiting pets in a contract is invalid. Even if the tenant initially agreed not to have pets, landlords can't use it to terminate the lease if they change their mind. Second, who's responsible for fixing things in the house? According to Section 20, it's the landlord's duty to handle repairs. Third, can landlords cut off utilities if the tenant doesn't pay rent? Section 21 says landlords can't cut off water, electricity, or food unless the tenant has been legally evicted and left the premises. Fourth, can landlords change locks if the tenant doesn't pay rent? Section 24 specifies that landlords can't change locks arbitrarily. Fifth, what to do with a tenant's personal belongings after eviction. Section 41 stipulates that landlords must store the tenant's items nearby for 72 hours after eviction before disposing of them. Sixth, if landlords want to end a lease before it expires, good luck. Even after the lease term ends, it doesn't guarantee the tenant will automatically move out. If landlords want the property back for personalists, they need to give a 60-day notice and compensate the tenant with 1 month's rent, or provide satisfactory alternate housing. 7. Discussing the hot topic of rent arrears in Section 60. If a landlord wants to evict a tenant due to rent arrears, they must give a 14-day notice. If the tenant pays up within that time, tough luck for the landlord. 8th, Section 74 reveals that if a tenant pays rent after the landlord files for eviction, but before the court date, the legal battle was for nothing. 9. Can landlords charge rent deposits? Yes, but according to Section 105 to 106, deposits can only be used to pay the last month's rent, and landlords must pay interest on it. 10th, can landlords demand post-dated checks or automatic debits? Section 108 says no. 11th, with inflation soaring and prices through the roof, can landlords increase rent? Yes, but only following the yearly regulated percentage after at least 12 months of the contract. The government usually limits the annual rent increase to around 0.5%, or sometimes, as in 2021, 0%. Check the latest government announcements for the exact figures. 12th, now, the common key deposit seen in contracts is a no-go, as stated in Section 134. The sections I covered so far are just a snippet of the Residential Tenancy Act. Take a closer look, and you'll see how this act puts landlords, especially small ones, in an unfavorable position. Some clauses even seem to go against the spirit of a fair contract. Moving on from the act, let's talk about the Landlord Tenant Board LTB. Think of it as the courtroom for housing disputes. The act briefly introduces the LTB structure and formation in Section 169. Surprisingly, the board members are appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, not elected. Since they are appointed, you can imagine the efficiency level. I tried finding if the Act sets a time frame for the LTB to handle cases. But Section 193 simply states that time shall be computed in accordance with the rules. Not very helpful. Visiting the official LTB website, I stumbled upon a useful pieces of information. First, on November 14, 2023, the LTB released videos on how to use Zoom for hearings. In 2023, quite the forward thinkers, aren't they? Second, on June 15, 2023, the LTB published timelines for case processing. For L1 and L9 applications, which cover rent-related issues, the wait time has miraculously been reduced to within 5 months. Progress, they say, but don't forget, this means tenants get a rent-free period of 5 months. And if, by some miracle, you finally get a hearing date, if the tenant applies for adjourn, you're looking at an additional 7 to 8 months. So, congrats to the tenant for enjoying a year of rent-free living. Post-hearing, the LTB aims to issue a court order within 60 days. To contact the LTB, be prepared for an average wait time of 37 minutes, assuming the phone lines aren't busy. If they are, you'll be treated to the sweet sound of a busy signal. And there you have it, the legal obstacles awaiting landlords in Canada. Being a landlord is no easy road. It's like walking on eggshells. Stay tuned for more in the next episode.